Ladies and gentlemen, it is my hope that you are fine wherever you are. I want us to talk about the Magarini by-election, and we will approach it from three angles. One, a brief background. Two, who are the key players? And three, what will the results mean to the key players? As you know, ladies and gentlemen, Magarini is one of those by-elections occasioned by an election nullification. So the UDA candidate in Magarini, having lost by mere 14 votes, went to court to challenge that election. And of course, the petition went through, and that election was nullified. The ODM candidate, whose election was nullified, did not bother to appeal. And so, if IBC had been fully constituted by then, we would have had the Magarini by-election almost 2 years ago. But IBC, as you know, was just recently reconstituted. By the time IBC was being reconstituted, the political environment had changed drastically. And by drastically, I mean those who were chanting Ruto must go were now singing two-term. And supporters of William Ruto were now chanting Ruto must go. Things had drastically changed, and this affected Magarini by-election in major ways. This is what I mean. You see, the UDA candidate who successfully petitioned the Magarini election and got it nullified is a very popular candidate. However, by the time IBC was now announcing this by-election, ODM, the party he was going to compete with, was now working with UDA. So Raila Odinga reached out to William Ruto, and they came up to an understanding that they were not going to field candidates against each other. That is why you didn't see a UDA candidate in Kasepol, a UDA candidate in Uhunja. Not that they could not field, they could. That is why you didn't see an ODM candidate in Malava, and so on and so forth. So back to Magarini. In Magarini, ODM argued that since the candidate would only serve for 1 year, they were saying let the ODM MP finish the remainder of his term, and then come 2027, they can now go face-to-face or for a joint nomination. William Ruto, as you know, had to call the candidate himself. So he didn't just sit with Raila in some room and then decided, it is decided and communicated to Kenga. No. He called Stanley to State House, Mombasa, sat down with him with the leadership of UDA in Mombasa, and he shared with him what the situation was, admitted that it was unfair to ask him to shelve his ambition, considering that he believed that it was his victory that had been stolen, but also shared with him that, considering it's just 1 year, he could wait and vie 2027. I repeat, he mentioned, because I'm privy to these discussions, he mentioned that he understood how unfair it was, but then also argued that in politics, compromise is key at times. So he was not just left like that. He was given a very good deal. If any of you has watched Owen Bayer explaining the deals and the agreement they had, Kenga was given a very good deal. In fact, from that meeting, he left agreeing that he would not vie. He would actually stay away from the election so that the ODM candidate can be supported. So how did Stanley Kenga end up vying again? Well, that leads us to the second angle, which I said key players. You see, Coast, just like Luo Nyanza, was so attached to Raila Odinga. And without Raila Odinga, there are elements who are angling for the top leadership of the region. Joho is 100% persuaded that he deserves to lead the people of Coast. But Joho is not without opposition in that part of the world. Somebody like Muhammad Ali, aka Jijopevu, doesn't like Joho at all. And so if you bring Joho into government the way Ruto did, it was automatic that he was going to lose Muhammad Ali, and Muhammad Ali he lost. And to get back at Ruto, Muhammad Ali not only joined Gachagua, it is also said that he is the one who reached out to Stanley Keng and convinced him to vie against the agreement they had with the president. And he was not going to even vie as an independent, no. He was now going to vie with DCP, Rigathis party, to compete with ODM candidate in Magarini of all the places. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is how we ended up with Stanley Keng vying, even though he had said he was not going to vie. And that leads us to main players being Joho, in this case, versus Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali is doing this to get back at both Joho and, of course, the president. He was there campaigning for Kenga, and he said as much. He really tore into the president, he tore into Joho, he said a lot of things. As you know, Muhammad Ali can really talk. And so, ladies and gentlemen, now that we know who the titans fighting here are, and I'm sorry to say it is not Kenga, it's neither Harrison Kombe, what the war here is challenging Joho's leadership of the coast. And that's why you saw that during that campaign in Magarini, every leader who came was speaking about Joho being their leader. So you might be wondering, why would they come all the way to Magarini to share how they love Joho and etc. That was the issue. The issue is they knew that by fielding a DCP candidate and using the very popular Stanley Kenga as their candidate, that was an attack on Joho and an attempt to challenge his authority in the region. The titans, ladies and gentlemen, fighting in Magarini, in my opinion, are Joho and Muhammad Ali. Because I wouldn't say it is an ODM versus DCP issue, because DCP does not have presence in Kilifi. The issue there is Joho and Muhammad Ali. And Muhammad Ali promised that the way he has defeated Joho twice, he was going to defeat him even in that Magarini. Now that we know who the titans are, let us go to the third angle. It's very rare that you find that people tie in an election. So you can expect either of the outcome. Either you win or you lose. If Harrison Kombe were to win, then it cements ODM and, of course, Joho's authority at the coast. That also shows that the working relationship between William Ruto and Raila Odinga, the late, is being supported by the people of Coast. Of course, it also gives Joho an ability and authority now to bargain with Ruto on behalf of the people of Coast. But should they lose, the opposite is true. If they were to lose to DCP of all the parties, if Joho was to lose to Muhammad Ali in Kilifi of all the places, then it means that maybe the influence of Joho does not go past Mombasa, or that it doesn't have real influence at all. That is on the Harrison Kombe or Joho side. But then if Muhammad Ali and this team were to win, of course, Rigathi will take credit and will use that to at least give his tribal party, and I'm not creating this, Rigathi said he was forming a party for Kikuyus. That is not me saying, that is him saying that the reason as to why he was forming DCP is because they don't have a party, a regional party, a party for their people. So he formed that DCP for the Kikuyus. But then having a party for a tribe is not going well for him. So he wants at least to be seen as a national party. And if his candidate was to win in Kilifi of all the places, Rigathi would say that Coast has rejected William Ruto. Rigathi will call press conferences. He will say Coast has rejected William Ruto. William Ruto is now rejected everywhere. He won't even say Coast has rejected ODM. He will just say because William Ruto supported that person, that is why that person lost. that the ODM guy would have won if it were not for the support he got from William Ruto. So that is something you should expect from Rigathi should they win. Of course, Mohamed Ali will also use that to stamp his authority and say that, Joe, it's fair game come 2027. I might even challenge you for something bigger, or even being the kingpin of the people of the coast. And 3, a win by DCP will complicate things for ODM in Kilifi come 2027, because people will then feel that it is possible to win even with an unpopular party like DCP in the region. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is it.